we are continuing on with PO22, now doing the opposite of what we did on the first page. Okay, you'll notice all of these equations here are given to you in standard form, and your job is going to be to convert them into slope-intercept form. So, in a sense, the steps are going to be kind of the opposite, because with slope-intercept form, fractions are okay, right? With slope-intercept form, y is by itself. So your answer to these questions will look like what you started with on the front side. Okay, on the front side you went from slope-intercept to standard. Now we're going the other direction, because if it's important to know how to get someplace, it's important to know how to get home again, right? So your two steps. Number one, we're going to start with opposite operations, and since we moved the x term over to be with y, to put it in standard form, to put it back in slope-intercept form, we got to move it back. Okay, so again, we're going to move the x term to the other side using opposite operations. Exactly the opposite of what we did for putting it into standard form to begin with. Okay, so just this first one here, 6x plus 2y equals 14. We want to get x on the other side of the equal sign. So we are going to subtract 6x from both sides. Kind of. It's two steps to do it, yes. Okay. We are essentially getting y by itself. So in a sense, yeah. Can we combine 14 and negative 6x?
No.
No, because the 14 doesn't have an x and the 6x does. Okay. And so we can't combine them. What we're left with on the left side is just the 2y, because we moved the 6x's over. And on the right side, where should we put that negative 6x? Before the 14 or after the 14?
After.
Before the 14. Why before the 14? Because remember that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. That x term comes first, because that's going to be our slope, right? So 14 minus 6x is still a correct representation of the equation. However, putting it into slope-intercept form, you need to write that negative 6x first. Why is the 6x negative? Because we had to subtract it to move it over. Why is the 14 plus 14? Because it's positive to start with, right? And to show a positive 14, we can use a plus sign. Yes, sir?
Why would it not be 0? It'd be minus 6 from 6.
Well, it is kind of 0. Like over here, these cancel out because 6x minus 6x equals 0x. So on the left side, yes, it is like 0. But on the right side, we don't have any x's to start with. We're starting essentially with 0 x's, and we're subtracting 6. That's going to be negative 6x. Okay. The second step. What do you suppose it is? Anyone have any guesses? Knowing that we have to get y by itself here. Yeah?
Divide everything by the coefficient of y.
Yes. Step 2. Divide each term by the coefficient to y. And again, I'm going to highlight this each term piece. Everything gets divided by 2. You divide the 2y by 2. You divide the negative 6x by 2. You divide the 14 by 2. Okay?
I found the labels.
Good for you.
Well done! Hey! Now, the reason why you can divide negative 6x by 2, even though the 2 doesn't have an x, is that just like fractions, the rules for multiplication and division are different. In fractions, you have to have common denominators. When you add and subtract, when you multiply or divide, you do not. Same thing here. When you add or subtract, you need like terms. When you multiply or divide, you don't. Okay? So that is the reason why we can still divide that x term by a 2, because the rules for division are different than when you add or subtract. Yes?
So will you actually divide those?
You do. So 2y divided by 2 gives us y by itself. Negative 6x divided by 2. For this division, we kind of ignore the x. So just what's negative 6 divided by 2? Negative 3. And the x just tags along there.
7.
And then 14 divided by 2
Yeah.
equals 7.
Plus 7. I'm so small.
Okay. So in slope-intercept form, our equation is y equals negative 3x plus 7. And again, why do we like slope-intercept form? If we needed to graph this equation, this doesn't tell us much as far as the graphing part of it. Put it in slope-intercept form, and now we know exactly what the line is going to look like. It'll cross the y-axis at positive 7. Its slope will be negative 3 over 1. Done. That's what slope-intercept form gives us. Standard form doesn't. Okay? That's why we convert. Yeah?
When you so for something that, no, never mind. But yeah, for something that you can't divide, will you just keep it a fraction?
Yes, great question. Let's look at the next one. James is asking, what if this division right here doesn't work out evenly? Leave it as a fraction. Why would you not want the decimal?
It's hard.
Because it's a slope, right? The rise over the run. You want that to be a fraction. The y-intercept, that could be a decimal fraction, whatever. But for the slope piece of it, if it doesn't divide evenly, just leave it as a fraction in simplest form. Negative 12x plus 8y equals 56. Step 1, move the x term over to the other side using opposite operations. Since it's a negative 12x, we're going to be adding 12x, and all of you are writing this work down in your binder, right? So we can see. We're not gonna single anyone out on the world of YouTube. We don't need to do that. I'm just reminding a general reminder, okay? Folks, she's not the only one. Negative 12x plus 12x is 0x. They cancel out. That's why we do it. 8y is left on the left side. And then on the right side, we can't put 68x because with addition, 56, a constant, 12x, the x term does not, are not combinable. So we have to leave that 12x separate from the 56, and we're putting the 12x first because that's what slope-intercept form requires. Okay? Step 2, divide each term by the coefficient to y. The coefficient to y is 8. So everything gets divided by 8. On the left side, we do it so that we get the 8s to cancel out, y is by itself. This division, 12 divided by 8, doesn't work out evenly. So we're going to leave it as a fraction, but we do need to simplify it. So what does 12/8 simplify to be? 3 halves. So our equation, y equals 3 halves x plus 7.
How do we get 56 and 7?
You divide it by 18.
And that equals 7.
Even half.
Well done, Mr. Nushka.
Good math.
Okay.
I wanted to do that.
This is I'm not going to say it's easier than going from slope-intercept to standard form,
Yeah.
but it is a little bit cleaner. You don't have to worry about double fractions or LCDs or anything like that. Okay, it's simply opposite operations and then division by the coefficient. James J.
So for y with only nothing on it, when it's
It's a 1.
So the next one,
It's a 1.
what's our first step? Mr.
Move
Nushka.
the x to the other side.
How?
Using opposite operation.
Which means we're going to,
The other side.
yes, using what?
Subtraction.
Very good. So subtract 4x from both sides. On the left, they cancel out, which is what we want. But beware that negative sign belongs to the y, right? The negative sign follows the y. So our next equation reads negative y equals negative 4x minus 3. Why is it minus 3? Because the 3 was negative to begin with. Okay? Yes.
So if you minus 4x from 4x, wouldn't you plus 4x on the other side?
No. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. The reason why we subtract here is because that 4x is positive. But if I subtract 4x's from one side and add them to the other, that's going to throw off the equation. It'd be like this. Remember yesterday we had that equation, what was it, 12 equals 5 plus 7, right?
Yeah.
If I subtract 5 from this side and subtract 5 from that side, I get -5 plus 12 equals 7. Is that still a true equation? Yes. If I subtract 5 from this side, but add 5 to this side, is 5 plus 12 equal 7? No. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do the same thing to the other. Okay? And the reason why we subtract is because originally that 4x is a positive. Now, James, going back to your questions earlier, have any other questions, sir?
Could you put a 1 in front of the y just for like the dividing part?
Yeah, you could, because that's my next point here, right? What is our coefficient to y here? It's not nothing. It's technically -1, right? It's technically -1. And so we do need to divide by the negative sign, which is really dividing by -1 here, to make our y term positive. And all that's really going to do on the right side is change the sign of everything. Okay? Are you with me?
Yeah.
-1y divided by -1 is y by itself. -4x divided by -1 changes it to be positive 4x. -3 divided by -1 changes it to be positive 3. And so our equation is y equals 4x plus 3.
I did it.
I divided by -1 because that's my coefficient of y.
Not plus -3.
Adding a -3 is the same thing as subtracting 3, but you, what did you do, Luca?
So I didn't get the negative on the 1.
You see why it's there? Okay.
Even I got
All right.
it.
Wait, you just made it fun.
Any other questions? We're going.
Even I got it.
Okay, next row. Audrey has requested we do the next one. 2x minus 3y equals -15. Oops. Our first step is the same as it was up above. Move that x term over using opposite operations. So we start by subtracting 2x, subtracting 2x. That -3 belongs to the y. Now, dividing by -3, because that's the coefficient to y, we do it to get those to cancel out. Y is by itself. On the right side, that -2 divided by -3 doesn't work out evenly, so we simplify the fraction. What is -2 divided by -3 simplified to be? Mr. Nushka? 2/3? 2/3?
Yeah, 2/3.
Who taught you fractions?
Mr. Allison.
Okay. 2/3. Okay, the negative signs simply cancel out. And then -15 divided by -3 is a positive sign.
Oh, yeah.
A negative divided by a negative is a positive, so those signs just end up canceling out.
Negative plus a
And then-
negative.
And then -15 divided by -3, positive 5. Yes,
2 divided by -3. 2 negatives.
I'm getting -2 because I subtracted it to move it over, Luca. Opposite operations. Since it's positive on the left, I've subtracted to move it over to the right. Are you sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like negative numbers.
Me neither.
Your homework for Monday, the other two on this page, and then the bottom section here.
Can you go over one of those that don't get? How do you do the bottom?
It says, shh, 3, 2, 1, you are quiet. I'd love to explain it to you, but you're gonna. It says, use the information to write the equation of the line in standard form. Show your work. Now, to write something in standard form, you can start with slope-intercept form, right? Because the whole point of the objective was to go back and forth between the two. So if I tell you the slope of the line is 3/4 and the y-intercept is 0.6, what's the equation of that line in slope-intercept form?
Y equals.
Wait, oh, I give up.
Okay?
Y equals something. Oh, 3/4 x plus 6.
Good. So you can use the information given. I give you the slope, I give you the y-intercept. You can use that to write the equation in slope-intercept form, and now it becomes just like on the front side, where you convert it to standard form. Okay? You also know how to get the slope and the y-intercept of a line that's been graphed. We did that in CO21, or 20, or 19, or something like that. Okay? You can get the y-intercept, you can get the slope from a line that's been graphed. We've done that. You can also get the slope and the y-intercept from two-ordered pairs. What do you need to use to get the slope of a line if you're given two-ordered pairs?
I1 y2 x1.
y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? That gives you the slope. What's the y-intercept of that line? And how do you know that? Because you've got that order, that x value of 0. So both of these here, you know the slope formula. We've covered that. And I give you the y-intercept. From there, you have enough information to then rewrite the equation from slope-intercept form to standard form. And that is what you are tasked to do for Monday. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, compliments, congratulations, criticisms on PO22. Mr. Yushka.
Is the graph a question?
Yes, the graph is a question.
Okay, I'm just
Oh,
making
it
sure.
is.
It is. There are 4 of them here.
Wait, what?
From a graph, you know how to identify the slope and the y-intercept from the graph. You've done that.
No, I don't.
Wait, I did.
Graph is a
Oh,
question.
I would have got that.
Glad someone asked. Luca, yes?
I do not get how to find a slope.
Rise over run,
God.
vertical change over horizontal. Flip back a couple objectives, and we have done it. Okay? All right, folks, that's how you math.
Congratulations.